And I guess like with the addition of the LLMs, there's kind of like there's
Mhm.
maybe like text to instruction, maybe like that's a new part of this that hasn't really been part of the robotics research before, but I can actually say like pick up that cup, it'll know what cup I'm actually referring to. So there's part of it that's like a translation of a language instruction actually into some instruction that ends up being a motion policy and routing, etc. But maybe like how does that actually factor into the evolution of what we actually need to do to get something like this working in the home?
Yeah, so there's sort of two different ways to approach this. One, the way that robotics has been doing for a long time is called task and motion planning. And so in task and motion planning, you have some set rules and maybe some predicate conditions. So how do you get from the position where I have an object in my hand to the position where I have the object in a shelf, for example? And using sort of these mathematical structures of how we enter in each of these states and leave each of these states, we can formulate a perfect task that is, guaranteed to get us from wherever our initial state is to the end state of a clean kitchen. This is something we've been doing for a long time in robotics, but it's very rigid. So if you don't complete one of the tasks or it's a little bit different than you expect it to, there's a lot of different work that's gone into making those sorts of structures more robust. On the other side, sort of the other approach that's now become a lot more popular is with these language models, like you mentioned, where you don't have any mathematical guarantee that this task will be completed, but you can break it down from natural language into subtasks much more naturally. And again, there's no guarantee that those subtasks will actually complete the task that you care about. But it's much easier to interact with that kind of system. It's easier to specify the tasks that you want. It's a lot more general. And so you have this trade off between a more rigid system that's provably correct versus a much more flexible system, but still very much prone to mistakes and hallucinations and all of the sort of interpretability issues that we're currently having with language models. And so it's both approaches are being used by different labs in various ways. Both are finding success. And so I think the question becomes, what is a high enough degree of success rate? Are we able to get these language interfaces to the point where we can reliably deploy them? I think the answer will be yes. But then the question is, are we just treating the language model as a language interface where I talk to the robot and then the language model turns that into some set of code or instructions or finite state machines or things of that sort? Or is the language model sufficient to just do all of this planning on its own and interact with some low level planner? And that's still to be seen, I think. There's still a lot of active work in figuring out what is the right architecture between these big, slow models versus the things that are actually controlling your robot that are much, much faster.